Opinionated, outspoken, informative. The Jaguar Journal. Your source for the latest information on Southern University sports and SWAC athletics. A Baton Rouge sports talk tradition. Now, here's your host, Reggie Flood.
Saturday morning, 7:05 a.m. to be exact. It's the Jaguar Journal. I am Perry White, and I am, elated for today's show because the studio is jumping. There's some life in the studio this morning. Of course, we got my man Mike behind the board, but I want to welcome back into the studio this morning with me my good friend and my guy, Lenard Tillary. I always say he's not only Southern University's all-time leading rusher, but the Southwestern Athletic Conference, known as the SWAC, all-time leading rusher. So what an honor to have you back in here. Good morning to you.
Oh, man, good morning. Good morning, everybody, to our listeners, and especially good morning to you and our esteemed guest we have this morning.
Our esteemed guest it is, and he does not do many interviews, and the fact that when I gave him a call, he said, man, who is this? Then he quickly remembered. He was like, man, yeah, I remember you. And when I asked him would he like to come on to the Jaguar Journal this morning, he said, yeah, we wanted to try to get him on last week, but due to schedule issues, but we was able to get him today. And this is huge. So for all of y'all that's listening today that want to know about Southern, this is a guy that's going to tell you. We want to welcome to the Jaguar Journal this morning the doctor, the man, the crank master. It's wartime. The man himself, Mr. Lawrence Jackson. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. White. I tell you what, I am excited to be on this program, the Jaguar Journal. I've been watching it for a number of years, and now I'm on it. I'm excited.
Hey, I told him, he said, what time is the show? I said 7 o'clock. He said 7 a.m. I said, yeah, it's pretty early, huh? He said, no, that's late for me.
Oh, yeah.
I said, man, it's not often I can get somebody on the show and they tell me 7 a.m. is late.
Well, I tell you what, I'm up at about 4:30, 5 o'clock, watching the news, watching what's going on, watching my golf, and just checking things out. I'm just an early bird, man. I'm ready to go.
You ready to go?
I'm still pumped up. I'm fired up.
Ooh, look, see, it's you feeling the energy starting. It's like it's heating up. By 8 o'clock, we're going to be in here. Hey, I'm going to have to get up out this.
Well, I tell you what, it's wartime. It's a wartime experience for me. Anything I do is wartime.
I like that. So for anyone that's listening out there and you may not be a fan or a follower of Southern, Mr. Lawrence Jackson, former director of bands at Southern University, a long time serving. And, now I think about it on this show, the Jaguar Journal has been around for over 20 plus years. I'm not sure in the past if they've ever had Dr. Greggs, anybody on this show.
No, they never did. I am the first band director from Southern University to be on the Jaguar Journal.
You might be the second, because Kedrick Taylor.
Oh, Mr. Taylor.
Well, Dr.
Taylor.
Taylor.
Dr. Taylor is one of my former students as well. Matter of fact, I recommended him for the job in 2018.
Okay.
Yes.
So he beat you to it, but of the previous guy, I'm not sure if they ever had, and there may be some guys that may call in and say, man, back in 1991 we had, so I don't know.
Oh, man.
It's been a long time. But I want to welcome you to the Jaguar Journal. First of all, just to have both you fellas in here, this is black excellence. Right. And that's what I like, success, accomplishments, goals that were put out to be attained, and you guys did that. You did that with an education on the football field. You did that with an education and then molding lives of young people to show them the importance of education. Right. And that's the type of things when we talk about the stories of Southern University, when we talk about the impact, the imprint that Southern has on a community that looks like us, that's what I think is important. For you, who is Lawrence Jackson? Where did your humble beginning start?
Well, first of all, I am a native of Crowley, Louisiana.
The big metropolis.
The metropolis. We even have an East Crowley. When you go in, somebody say, hey, man, y'all got East Crowley? I say, yeah, bro, we growing, man. We growing. So I'm from Crowley, Louisiana. I've been born and raised there. And I mean, when I say had a great upbringing, great parenting, I had 5 other siblings, and we were taught to be respectful of people.
Mm.
Yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am.
Goes a
And
long
we
way.
was hard-working people during that time. My father worked hard. My mother worked hard. We all worked hard. But my passion was music. And I got started in the 8th grade as a tuba player.
It's a tuba thing, Shawty.
Tuba, yeah. I was in the tuba section, and I played tuba, and I was pretty good. Made the all-parish band, then made the all-state band. And I got a scholarship from the legendary Dr. Isaac Gregg. During that time, a scholarship was $250 because tuition, room, and board at Southern University was $532 a semester. So $532 and you get half paid. That's a lot of money. Then after the first semester, I got a full scholarship.
Yes, sir.
I got a full scholarship. We had some outstanding musicians. Dr. Gregg was about 41, 42 when I came to Southern. I was his third freshman class. At that time, we called crab class. And Doc was spicy, had a lot of energy. He was driven. And I did some pretty good things as a student. Most outstanding brass player my freshman year. Outstanding bandsman of the year my senior year. Band captain, student arranger. Highest academic average in the music department my first and second semester there. So I accomplished a lot of things, but the great reward that I had while I was at Southern was getting an opportunity to play in the Southern University marching band from Jaguar Land, better known as the Human Jukebox. And to have an opportunity to be under the legendary Dr. Isaac B. Gregg and all his assistants, Mr. Paul Adams, Mr. Don Dillon, it was a treat because we were about the halftime show. That's what we didn't have the zero quarter and fifth quarter. Although we started the fifth quarter, we didn't have that then. Everybody was concentrating on the halftime show. So that's how it was. I went to Clinton after I graduated in 1975. I graduated and I was hired as the director of bands at Clinton High School. Also was responsible for programs at Clinton Junior High School that turned into Clinton Middle School and Clinton Elementary School. So I had 3 band programs. I thought everybody had 3 band programs, but I had 3 band programs, was responsible for 3 different levels of students. And I would carry instruments in the backseat of my car and stands in the trunk of my car, go and have elementary band in the cafeteria. And I did that for 9 years. And I was excited. I'm not talking about waiting for the day to end. I couldn't wait for the day to begin. Was driving from Baton Rouge to Clinton, 26 miles, and hauling stands and music from school to school. I was pumped up. I had nothing but the energy. I was 22 years old.
They say young and vigor.
I had a whole lot of testosterone in me.
Let's do this then. Let's get ready to take a break. And when we come back, we'll finish and continue this conversation with my guy, Mr. Lawrence Jackson, former director of bands at Southern University, my man, Lenard Tillary, SWAC all-time leading rusher, and, of course, myself, Perry White. So y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. More of the Jaguar Journal.
Care South is now providing COVID-19 drive-through community testing at their Baton Rouge clinic. Testing is available for anyone with or without symptoms and no doctor's order required. No insurance? Care South will cover the cost. Care South is a federally qualified health center providing comprehensive medical, dental, and behavioral health services, offering telehealth services and an in-house pharmacy. Satellite clinics in Donaldsonville, Plaquemine, and Zachary. At Care South, we're here for you. Care South. Family serving families.
SWAC all-time leader Rush. And our special guest this morning, Mr. Lawrence Jackson, former director of bands at Southern University. I see somebody on on YouTube who's chiming in. Jermaine Clark, he said, I know it's early in the morning because when you said Clinton, he thought you was talking about Clinton, Mississippi. So we got to clarify that. Not Clinton, Mississippi. Clinton,
Louisiana.
Louisiana. So
Yes,
let's get back into it because this is something you don't talk about much when it comes to interviews, when it comes to sharing a story, especially on a Southern-based show where people want to know the history. A lot of people saw the Human Jukebox. A lot of people saw you the same way with you, Tillery. They saw you guys in roles on game day.
Right.
But it's what happens on the work outside of game day.
Right. Right.
The same way at practice, they don't see how hard you were going. The same way at practice, they didn't see how hard it took for you to teach young people to be successful.
Exactly. What we learned at Southern University was we practiced for results, not hours. That's the legendary Dr. Greg. He wanted to expedite time.
Okay.
Now, back in the day, when I was a freshman at Southern, which was 1971, I came to Southern at 17, and we would practice all day and all night. It was grueling. It was tough, but we had tough skin then. We were tough. Our rehearsals would go in the morning. You get up at 5. Get up at 5, and then you do exercise. After you do your calisthenics, you go eat breakfast. Go eat breakfast, you go on the field. Now, you do field experience 3 hours in the sun. No hat, no water, no nothing. They used to give us on break. We had one break in the morning, and we used to have a salt pill or salt tablet and a cup of ice. And a cup of ice was valuable during that time. We were like, give me my ice. We didn't want nobody to take our ice. And we were on the barn. Like, we didn't have the mini dome. The mini dome was the agriculture barn. It was a barn that housed cattle, particularly cows. And we had a football field on the side of the agriculture barn. And we were marched. We were fundamentals. You had to have that right angle, 90 degree. You had to have it. They cloned us to march the same way. We were marched. Could you imagine in August weather, it's steamy, it's muggy, and you marching on the field. Guys were throwing up their breakfast. We run. We will march. And then for lunchtime, we have to run to the cafeteria. At that time, it was Parker Hall. Mayberry was actually Parker Hall. Mm-hmm. And we would run everywhere we go. And then we would have indoor experience from 1 to 3. 1 o'clock to 3, we learn our music. We learn our school songs. We have to memorize everything. After that, you go back on the field. 3 a.m. when the sun is beaming down on you. From 3 to 5:30, we on the football field. Heat of the day, no hat, no water, no nothing, no Gatorade. It wasn't no Gatorade then. No, it wasn't nothing like that. You had to take that salt tablet and your cup of ice.
That cup of ice getting me.
And only the strong survive. Man. Only the strong survive. They didn't want you behind, they wanted your mind. We were soldiers. And we were called the Southern University Marching Band from Jaguar Land, and then we'll say better known as the Human Jukebox. Now, a whole lot of people don't know where the Human Jukebox name came from. Human Jukebox name came from Florida A&M. They were calling us the Human Jukebox. And this is fact. So everybody could get it right. We didn't give us that name. Florida A&M was a sophisticated marching 100. And in 1967, guys from New Orleans, some of them from St. Aug, Booker T, was members of the Florida A&M band. And they would say as a put down, Southern University is just like the Human Jukebox because they could play the top 40s. So it was supposed to be a put down because they were playing classical music on the field, Flight of the Bumblebee. So they thought us playing the top 40s was a put down in the 60s, but it wasn't a put down because everybody was getting excited. Even our fans wanted to hear Southern University Marching Band from Jaguar Land. So when Dr. Griggs came on the scene, the legendary Dr. Griggs, in 1969, he accepted that name. The band voted on the Human Jukebox because Doc was a flashy, energetic, entertaining, phenomenal director of band. So every HBCU band was getting names like Tennessee State Aristocrat, Grambling World Fame, Florida A&M Marching 100, and we was the Southern University Human Jukebox. Then later on, Jackson State got their name, the Sonic Boom of the South. And then it just sprayed it. So we were tough. We had tough skin. During the 70s, the late 60s and early 70s, Dr. Griggs had so much energy and so much passion. He was driven. He never got tired. That man never got tired. He was always thinking about how to put Southern band on the top shelf at the forefront. He was always thinking. He was the guy who would really make it happen. Now, keep in mind, we had a great marching band before the legendary Dr. Griggs came on the scene with Dr. Tillery Davis, who was Dr. Griggs' band director when he was in school in the 40s. We had Dr. Ludwig Freeman, who was phenomenal, a phenomenal band director. But Doc was an entertainer. He not only was a great music educator, outstanding band director, but he knew how to entertain. And he always told us it's no business like show business. Let me tell you something. He would use the band. Doc's greatest asset, greatest strength as a band director was his musicianship and his ability to create and make concert and classical music sound like the record or the CD or everything you hear when you're playing an album. He was a phenomenal rehearsal technician. He's phenomenal. But he adjusted to marching band because he knew that the fan base and the money and the interest was in marching band. So he developed those skills as he went along. And he studied. He's a Van Cook graduate. He was a graduate of Southern University, then went to Van Cook College of Music in Chicago. And he developed those skills to put a band together. He studied with Cassavan at Van Cook College of Music when they have workshop. And he stayed in workshop looking at films. And he told me the story, how he got really extremely good with drill pedagogy. So we were about the halftime show. We were about entertainment. We would do drill. He was a drill master. Let's make no mistake. Again, all the band directors previously before him were outstanding. But by him being an entertainer, he just brought the band to the forefront. And he knew what to say. He knew how to say. He got the job done. Matter of fact, the first Super Bowl Southern University did, and I stand corrected, was in 1970. The Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings, played against, I forgot. Minnesota Vikings against, I forgot. I'm going to go on. But in 1970, Southern University did the halftime show in Tulane Stadium in New Orleans, Louisiana. And they turned the place out.
The Minnesota Vikings versus the Kansas City Chiefs.
Kansas City Chiefs, that's it.
Yep. Kansas City won 23-7.
Kansas City. And we had football players from the SWAC playing for Kansas City. Elijah Pitts, wide receiver, Southern University. Buck Buchanan from HBCU school. Ernie the Cat Lad from Grambling State University at that time.
Buck Buchanan is big because that's what they named the FCS Defensive Player of the Year after of now.
Yeah. All these guys, you had a lot of SWAC players during that game. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you something. Doc talked his way into the NFL, letting the marching band, play the halftime show, perform the halftime show. The Dancing Dogs, the Southern University marching band and Dancing Dogs did the halftime show. Now, let me explain this to you. Mm-hmm. We didn't have social media. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have none of these opportunities for people to see the band. So you had to have a reel video of your band to submit, and they had to actually see the band perform. So for us being able to perform in the 1970 Super Bowl in Tulane Stadium was the first step in us getting on the national scene where people saw us and knew who we were. Because me coming out of high school, I didn't know anything about Southern University Human Jukebox. Matter of fact, let's get the record straight on Jaguar Journal. I was going to Grambling.
Oh man.
Ooh, did y'all know that?
I'm let the record reflect. I was going to Grambling College. And why? You say, well, why are you going to Grambling College?
Well, why Grambling College?
I was going to Grambling College because at the time, the Grambling Tiger football team under the legendary coach Eddie Robinson was always on television. Every week, Grambling was in New York, Hawaii, Los Angeles, Houston, and they showed the Tiger Band. I didn't see Southern on the tube. Grambling was the only HBCU band. Matter of fact, it was the only band in the country that was on the tube every week during the football season. And so I say, well, I identified with Grambling. I said, I think I'm going to go play in that band. Mm-hmm. But what turned me around when we had career day and senior day, and Mr. Finister, who was over financial aid at Southern University, came that night, Crowley High School, my senior year, and I went by his booth, and I stopped, and I was looking, and he asked some questions, and I told him I played an instrument. And I was going to Grambling. He said, well, have you tried the Human Jukebox from Southern University? I said, Human Jukebox? What is that? And he said, look, you need to come be a part of the greatest band in the land. And I asked my band director when I got to school Monday, and he graduated from Southern. And he was in school with the legendary Dr. Isaac Gray. And he told me, look, you need to give it a try. And he told me, if you want to be an outstanding band director, you go to Southern. He said, Grambling is a very good school, very good band program. But he was explaining to me his experience as a student at Southern University. And he was my role model. Emmett Jacob. Mr. Emmett Jacob was my role model when it come to music education. He was phenomenal. So being that he's my role model, he was my role model, I said, well, I'm going to go to Southern. And then me going to Southern, my homeboys followed me. They said, well, if they call me Yank. If Yank going to Southern, then I'm going to go to Southern. Now, Jesse O'Neal, the right defensive end, was going to Southern. Then I changed to Grambling. And then Eddie Robb recruited him, and Jesse O'Neal, let the record reflect, Jesse O'Neal, who was playing defensive end on the other side of Big Hand Johnson. Gary Johnson from Monroe played defensive end. He played for the San Diego Chargers for a number of years, defensive end. Jesse O'Neal was on the other side from Crowley, Louisiana. And he signed a scholarship. I changed my mind, and Jesse said, well, man, I done signed with Grambling, going with you. So he couldn't not re-sign. So he signed the contract. So Grambling got Jesse O'Neal because I was supposed to be going to Grambling. Now, Jesse played Canadian football. Then he played for the Washington Redskins. Defensive end, I mean, these guys was 6'5", 6'6".
Nasty back then.
They were the
real deal.
Coaches, yeah. Doug Williams he was maybe 3 years after them. So they played with Doug Williams at least 2 years. Oh, okay. So they had a defensive line, offensive line. when I was at Southern, we never beat Grambling. I never got an opportunity to say I was there as a student when we lost. Let the record reflect. 71, 72, 73, 74. We lost to Grambling.
Tough.
And it hurt my heart because I cannot say I was a student when we beat Grambling. But years passed by, we beat Grambling a number of years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The 90s had to be glorious. Let me ask you this. Who were some influential people on the campus of Southern University outside of the band program that you would credit towards your education and success?
That's a good question. There's a number of people. I could say Mr. Frank White, who was a phenomenal professor of piano and music theory and in the Department of Music. I mean, he just taught us how to manage a class and how to practice and what you need, what skills you need to develop to be an outstanding music educator. The legendary Alvin Baptiste, the jazz maestro. I played in, maybe we call him Mr. Bat from New Orleans. He was a phenomenal arranger. He taught me a lot of things about arranging jazz music because I played in the band where we won the national jazz competition. Yeah, Southern won the national jazz competition in Washington, D.C. at the John F. Kennedy Center for Performing Arts. And we performed against the likes of North Texas State, which is known for jazz bands, Townsend in Townsend, New York, University of Michigan, Ohio State, all the big schools, but Southern University came out on top. That was in the spring of 1972. So the legendary Alvin Baptiste, Professor Alvin Baptiste, Professor Don Dillon, percussion instructor, who was also assistant director of band, taught me how to get around your classroom as it relates to percussion instrument, snare drum, melodic percussion, the timpani, all these things you need to do to teach students the correct way of playing the percussion instrument. Also, legendary Paul I. Adams, arranger for Southern University marching band. He taught me a lot about writing music. He's still living today. And he was my lower brass professor. I learned so much from him. I learned a whole lot from him. Some of the educators in the music department, one in particular was Mr. Mitchell, Dr. Mitchell. He taught graduate school when I was getting my master's, and I learned a lot from him about preparing yourself in the classroom and what it's going to take to survive, not only survive, but strive in the world today. He was a phenomenal teacher. A number of music, educators in the music department that forgot their names, but they were also instrumental in my upbringing. As it relates to education, if I had to define education, I would say education is the guiding, developing, and structuring of young minds so that they may reach their own individual potential. Southern, at that time, was a school who would meet you where you were when you got there and bring you up level and past the level of expectancy. And it was if you wanted to develop and be the person you should be, making a positive contribution, not only you, but society, Southern was the school to go. Don't you know we had as many as 12 to 14,000 students on campus at Southern University? So I've had a lot of people who influenced me. You know, when you're reaching 70, you forget names and you don't want to call the wrong names. But a number of influential people had a lot to do with my development. Like I say, Dr. Griggs and all the professors who was in the music department, all the the band department people really mold and shape me. Now, the biggest thing about Southern during that time, and I want to make it perfectly clear, was you could not be as good as, but you had to be better than. And they strive on fundamentals. They strive on hard work. They strive on a standard of excellence. Excellence is the product of hard work and extra effort that creates the difference between an acceptable job and an outstanding job. You had to have a high standard of excellence. And everybody was driven. We wasn't motivated, we was just driven. When you have drive, nobody tell you how to get up in the morning, go to work. You just had that drive. There are coaches, there are successful entrepreneurs and professional people who are successful because of the personal drive. They never got tired. I never got tired. Your body get tired, but you wouldn't get tired doing the work you were doing because it wasn't work.
Yes, sir.
When you find a passion that you enjoy, something you enjoy doing, you don't get tired. Listen, I never got tired doing what I was doing then. And that's music, teaching music, playing music. There wasn't no tired. What you mean tired? That don't make no sense.
You talking about that
no
drive,
sense.
man.
It don't make no sense.
He's getting me hyped up over here.
And that's why I want to ask, because I like the passion, and it seemed that Southern created that fire, that fuel to that fire. And that's what exploded to get so many young people in terms of its mission to, like you said, I will meet you where you at and I will develop you.
Right.
Southern has done that since its inception.
Correct.
For you, do you think Southern, where it is today, has lost some of that drive?
Well, the biggest thing about Southern today is customer service, one of the things. You have to sell your program. You have to get people in a position who can energize, because it's not expected that you would go to Southern now. Back in the day, your grandmother, your grandfather went to Southern, your parents went to Southern, so you're going to Southern. It's not like that now. You got to sell the program. You got to first find the people who have passion to recruit and tell the story. Then you have to pay the people. You have to pay the people. You have to make sure that they have a good salary and then hold them accountable. It's a 24/7. Recruiting is a 24/7 deal.
Oh, it don't
because
stop.
No, it's about the students. Tell your story. Now, let me explain this here. I'm glad you're asking this question because now I'm getting pumped up.
Let's go.
I'm getting pumped up. Listen to me. I told people Southern night, and it's no reflection on anybody because all our administrators are doing a wonderful job. So it's no reflection on the administration at Southern.
I'm going to tell you one thing about this show. You can let it all out.
Okay. Well, it's no reflection. But I told a lot of people in the past, if I had the responsibility of molding and shaping Southern University, how would I do it? They asked the question. I say, number one, I would compare Southern University to a Mercedes. And I would say, I'm just giving an example. If LSU was an S-Series Mercedes, we would be an E-Series Mercedes. They still Mercedes. They're going to drive the same. They're going to look the same. Give an example. In other words, if you go on the south side of town, it would be no different on the north side of town because we had all the resources, the same resources, same facilities. It's just on a smaller level. But what you see, the standard of excellence, the professors, I recruit professors who are endowed to get students to recruit, and I would give them the money to recruit. In other words, it's not going to be no difference in terms of resources. You got to have resources. You got to convince the students that, hey, listen, you're going to get a quality education at Southern University, and they are doing that. But resources, you need money. You need money. You need money. You need to make sure that you invest in quality students. It's not a y'all come university. It's not a y'all come band when in terms of quality. Like the football team. Football team have to have a twofold, same way with band, same way with education. You have to have quality coaches, quality band directors, quality professors, and you have to recruit quality students to keep it going. Who's your best recruiter for the university? Students. They're gonna go back home and say how it is. They're gonna tell a story for the university. So you gotta invest. You got to reinvest and continue to invest. Yes, and you have to have great cosmetics. The university is really doing a great job in making sure the campus, when people go on campus, you walk on campus and you say, well, I like this on the Mississippi River. It looks good. When I drive on campus just about every day and I see things going and things happening. But you got to be able to attract students. Something you got to have some kind of, the band is an attraction. There are students who come to Southern just to say, I'm at the school that have the Southern University Human Jukebox marching band. Our athletic department is an attraction. You got to win championships. You got to win championships. That's the bottom line. Our academics, you have to turn out some of the best minds available. And you have to go get them. There are students who wanted to come to Southern, but Southern took some time before they got back with them. And I know this because I'm going to just tell you like it is.
Tell it like it is.
Let me tell you like it is. My granddaughter graduated 2 years ago. And she wanted to come, she wanted to go to an HBCU school, particularly Southern University. And I tried all I could to get her at Southern. She graduated with a 3.88 GPA from an all-academic school in Humble, Texas. She didn't go to Atascocita, where her older brother attended, which is a comprehensive school. Went to a school just strictly academics, no music, no sports. And they had a dual enrollment with Lone Star College. She got her associate degree at Lone Star with a 4.0 and a 3.88 GPA at her high school. She had all the credentials. And she wanted to come to Southern because she wanted the HBCU experience. Southern took too long to do the things they need to do to get her squared away. It's not that they didn't try, but they didn't try hard enough.
Other entities were just moving a little bit faster.
Oh, yeah, the PWI schools were on her.
Boy.
She got scholarships from Baylor, scholarship office, LSU, TCU, Texas Women's College in Denton, Texas, University of Texas, which has a waiting list. She had to go to UT Arlington and then over into UT Austin. And she had all of the HBCUs, Spelman, you name it. North Carolina A&T, Prairie View, but she wanted to come to Southern. At the PWI schools, they have a deadline. Deadline at that time was May 1st. Now, I didn't try to tell who I had to tell, listen, you need to contact this person. They need to know something. Blah, blah. And it was very difficult. They wanted to help, but they couldn't get the numbers together at the time. So she signed with TCU in nursing. She signed with TCU. She's going to be a junior. Her GPA, 3.8. In 3 semesters, she made 2 Bs. One was in the first course of anatomy, and the second B was in microbiology. All of the courses A's. Now keep in mind, that not only her, there's a number of academians who want to come to Southern, but you got to jump on it.
Let me ask you this. Got a quick little second before we get ready to go to break. And answer this, if you can, as simple as possible for me. When we speak out as alums, lovers, and supporters of the Gold and Blue in Southern University, and we see how operations in which you see it, you saw it internally from being right there, and now we see it all from the outside still looking in, of the years of which you saw the processes and procedures in which we let those great ones slip through the cracks. And we also brought in some that wasn't so great and turned them into great diamonds. Correct. In the rough.
Correct.
Impression. We continue to build and mold diamonds. Correct. Why do you think it's simple as possible that when people speak out and the people that be at Southern hear that they seem to then deem you as the negative light? You're against us. You're saying things that can harm us, but in actuality, we're saying things that can make us better.
Well, first of all, I think more people should speak out and have a meeting with board members, administrators, and let them know what's going on. They're on the outside looking in because they know what's going on. And they should set up some kind of meeting, some kind of brainstorming, how we are going to get the recruits, the strong academician in as well as the ones who have potential. You got to have a meeting, you got to have a conference, you got to have brainstorming, what it's going to take of people who are on the outside who see what's happening.
All right, we got to get ready to take a break. And before we do, something I like that I heard from back in the day with Dr. Clark, the standard that he built at Southern that ultimately built the pride and the love was going to the big schools, the Ivy Leagues. Let's see what they're doing educationally, academically, that I can come back and bring that and put Southern. Although we may not be the Ivy League in terms of the resources and the money, we're going to be the Ivy League in terms of how we educate our young people through molding their minds and making them great, in which why Southern ultimately came the platform that basically built the black middle class of Louisiana because of the pride that was instilled in them. All right, we got to get ready to take a break. We'll come back at the top of the hour. I'm going to ask you some band stuff. All right, so let's come back, take a break. Y'all stay tuned. More to Jaguar Journal.
Download the Talk
All right, it's the Jaguar Journal, top of the hour. I'm Perry White. My man Lenard Tillary, the SWAC's all-time leading rusher. Always a pleasure to have him. And, of course, the man who you just heard that song right there, I remember. If you ever watch the video, you will see how much energy he really has. Because we just found out here in the studio.
Oh, man.
He bust 15 quick ones on us right quick. I'm talking about 1, 2.
Was he clapping?
I thought it, man, look. I just wanted to make sure that we need to go get him some. He said they didn't have Gatorade back in the day.
No.
They got it now. My man, Mr. Lawrence Jackson, former director of bands at Southern University. We all Southern grads in here. There's some legendary stuff going on in here. The SWAC all-time leading rusher. He's not even 30 years old, Mr. J.
Awesome.
Young brother,
Awesome.
accomplishments.
Yeah.
And you talking about some major names, Walter Payton. And you know your SWAC football guys. Because you were in here naming some guys back in there. I didn't even know who that was, you know. But then yourself, one of the best band directors to ever do it. One of the best to ever do it. And I want to bring it back around to the band because I think a lot of people have so many questions because, once again, the same way I said early in the show, and I continue to say, they see game day.
Right.
They see you with the helmet and the jersey on, ready to knock somebody, run somebody over. They see you directing, ready to run off and run back and give us that entertainment. But overall, outside of the game day, there's so much more to it. One of the things, you know, when we talk about the history of Southern University, especially its band, the influence of the band, a lot of people don't know the influence of the band is heavily entrenched into the Big Ten. And because of that, a lot of that is due to because educators during that time or people who want to be educators to further their education, they had to go up north.
Correct.
The Michigans, the Kansas States, wherever, they had to go up north in order to obtain those masters and those PhD programs. But to talk about the style of Southern's marching band, the foundation of what it is, what it was, and what it currently continues to move forward to be.
Well, first of all, we started off marching with a certain style from the legendary Dr. Tillery Davis in the 40s. And back then we had females in the band. There was no such thing as females not playing an instrument and in a marching band. We had majorettes then. Majorettes. And by the way, we had 2 drum majors.
Can I tell you something? I remember I was told that the original band name was the Counts of Sound.
Well, you're getting a little deep. I don't remember that. I'm not gonna say yes. But you were correct, and you are correct about our African American educators go and get their masters from the Midwest, the Big Ten. Our band director after Professor Ludwig Freeman, Tillery Davis was Dr. Ludwig Freeman, and he got his degree from the University of Michigan. Now, keep in mind, when Dr. Freeman came to Southern in the mid-'60s, stayed there 5 years, he brought the culture of what he wanted into Southern, the high knee lift, the uniform. Our uniform was almost patterned after University of Michigan Wolverines. We both blue and gold. And at that time, we had a plume. Well, some people call them feather, but it's the plume. And we had a blue and white plume. We didn't have the mop plume. We had that shakes everywhere. That's legendary. Dr. Griggs brought it. He changed the plume, and he added the cape. But Professor Freeman, Ludwig Freeman, marching style, how we march today was based somewhere on the University of Michigan style. Not completely, because we just put the swagger in it, the motion, the silkiness in our marching style. But high knee lift, 90-degree angle, uniform without the cape, That's all was brought to Southern University by the legendary Dr. Ludwig Freeman. Also, he thought the training would be so severe that females could not be able to keep up. So he started an all-male band. No dancers, no majorettes. He cut out the majorettes, cut out female marchers. Now, females could play in a concert band, but not in the rigorous marching band. So he knocked it out. And for years, we had an all-male band. In 1971, I played in an all-male band on the Dr. Gregg. And we developed our own style. We took the 90-degree high knee lift because most HBCU bands, most, not all of them, do 45. They march at a 45-degree angle. Whereas we march at a 90-degree angle, meaning our thigh and our calf make the 90-degree or right angle when we lift them up, and our toes are pointed. That's our style. With the Jaguar Rock, we had the Jaguar Rock, and it's unique. You got to be in the cut, in the pocket, we call it. You got to dig in. You got to dig in. If you don't dig in, if you're just touching the ground like you're marching on eggs, that's not Southern. You got to dig in.
It's almost like, in the neighborhood, you can see somebody walk the trail through the grass.
Right.
That's not the path, but
no.
They didn't beat that trail enough.
You got to dig in. You got to, and you have to step. You got to step. Everybody got to be like soldiers. That's why they say it's the S on our chest that makes us the best, and the rest flunk the test.
Ooh. Y'all listening out there?
People got to understand we are the computer technology of all bandology, the human eye part of marching pedagogy, the summa cum laude of band. We are the Southern University Marching Band from Jaguar Land, better known as the human jukebox. They ain't often imitated, but never ever duplicated. This is a tradition. This is a mainstay. This is, our history is so embedded in so many bands. Dr. Greggs got the rehearsal and the practice to a science where we didn't have to practice all night. Because back in the day, we didn't have nothing else to do but practice and study. We go to class. We didn't, no problem us to practice till 11 o'clock. It wasn't a big deal. 6 to 11, because we didn't have no lights on the football field. So we just practice music, practice music, practice music. In the daytime, we practice on our instruments. We march outside. When school started, we would practice from 4 o'clock on the field till 6 o'clock. Sometimes Dr. Greggs would have to call the cafeteria to say, hold a line, because they're going to be running late. And we have to run to Parker Hall. So through the years when I came back as an assistant band director in the 90s, we didn't practice that much. We didn't practice that long. And they were asking, well, Dr. Gregg, well, why you practice us so long? And he said, because I didn't have my students out there as band directors. Those students that I'm getting now in the 90s come prepared. They know our system, know our style. So you practice for results, not ours. These students have to go and study. So we would practice from 4 o'clock to 5. We'd go to dinner, come back for 6 o'clock. We warm up for 50 minutes, line up. We'd be on the field. We march to the field. 7 to 8 o'clock, Dr. Blow the whistle band room. 1 hour. 1 hour. 8 o'clock, we done. 8:15, we done. He make a few announcements. 8:15, we out of there. That's what I adopted when I was director of band. All night is not all right. But when I tell you practice behind the scenes, section rehearsals. We ain't just learn the music. You had to know the music. You're talking about 50, 60, 70 songs you had to learn, starting with the school song. And marches was king. You had to play a Carl King march, a John Philip Sousa march. You had to play these marches.
And I think for so long, that's the part that people didn't quite understand. How much work went into making the baddest band in the land when you talk about Southern University. Let's get ready to take a break. We're going to come back and continue. I know, let's take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to keep it going. All right, y'all stay tuned. More to Jaguar Journal.
Care South is now providing COVID-19 drive-through community testing at their Baton Rouge clinic. Testing is available for anyone with or without symptoms and no doctor's order required. No insurance? Care South will cover the cost. Care South is a federally qualified health center providing comprehensive medical, dental, and behavioral health services, offering telehealth services and an in-house pharmacy. Satellite clinics in Donaldsonville, Plaquemine, and Zachary. At Care South, we're here for you. Care South. Family serving families. Care South is now providing COVID-19 drive-through community.
All right. Soon as we heard that, Mr. J said, I wrote that. I wrote that. I know you did. That's why I like it. All right. Good morning. Welcome and joining us here on Talk 107.3, and then for everybody that's joining us on YouTube, on the Jaguar Journal YouTube channel, man, we enjoy having you guys in today. My bad, Jeremiah. I know earlier I called you Jermaine. I looked at it at a quick glance. Jeremiah asked that about Clinton. He said he thought he was talking about Clinton, Mississippi. Instead, he was talking about Clinton, Louisiana. We got two great fine men in this world that are Southern grads, and they are great when you talk about what they do for the communities, what they have done in life, and the accomplishments and the achievements. And guess what? Southern University grads like myself, my man Lenard Tillary, Southern University, and the SWAC, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, all-time leading rusher. If you don't know how big that is, go look it up. He is a value and an asset. Thank you. And he got on the Doug Williams shirt today. Doug Williams, football elite youth camp. Thank you for joining us today. And, of course, the man, the maestro himself. Ain't that mustard? If you ain't never heard that, then you... I got so many questions. Mr. Lawrence Jackson, good morning, sir.
Good morning again.
You were about ready to get into your groove. As we get into the latter part of the show now, I'm gonna have to kind of keep us on track now. So I gotta keep us on track. Mike gonna look at me. Shout out Mike, because Mike paid to make sure we pay the bills. To get back on, we were talking about the history of the band, but something I want to ask you about. Something that captivated me, that made me fall in love with Southern's band as I grew up in the 90s. I grew up in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. So my mom was a UAPB grad. Southern would always come up. Either they played them in Little Rock or when they finally started coming to Pine Bluff. But it was something about this small band with this powerful sound. Where did this powerful sound, because now you're starting to see it's everywhere. Every band, the word crank it seems to be universal now, but at one time it was Southern that had this unique, powerful sound. And how did that originate for this band?
Well, first of all, Southern University always had great arrangers. I'm not going to get into the name, call them, because there's so many of us who were arrangers and who are still arranging for Southern University. And we only have Southern University graduates or arrangers, the staff, the directors are graduates of Southern because we know the system works. First of all, it's a certain style that we look for, certain way we chord. Sometimes, a lot of times we use power chords, and so we know just how to orchestrate and how to voice certain notes so we could get what we want out of a song. So you have to be creative. You have to have an imagination of how would the song sound when Southern University Band is playing it. There are just so many songs that people say, oh, that's Southern. Southern written all over, because they know the arrangers are going to do justice to that particular song. Now, our advantage in the past, in the 70s, was not having YouTube. You ask the question, you say, why so many bands are starting to sound like Southern? Well, YouTube is responsible for that. YouTube is good on one end and not so good on the other end. So everybody could know the record. When we were in the band in the 70s, after me in the 80s, we had a road show. And we would do that particular show every away game. Why? Because the other fans who we were playing for and in another town never heard Southern Band. So we did our best halftime show.
Pine Bluff, Arkansas was one of those.
Yeah, and so because they didn't see us, never heard us the whole year, to them it was new. You can't do that today with technology. And I want to say this because this is facts. Band would spend hours studying our arrangement. They couldn't figure it out because they didn't have no way of knowing what we were doing. But now you just keep rolling the clip over and over, over and over. Here you could hear, say, okay, the trombones is doing this. They did this with this section in there. And everybody want to now write for power. We just didn't deliberately write for power. This is how we did it. But we were more interested in the music. Crank came for me. Let the record get straight right now.
Spell Crank out for them, the ones that don't know.
Crank. K-R-A-N-K or C-R-A-N-K. But this was energy. Let me tell you something. Crank wasn't about a sound. It was about energy. Now, I want everybody, if you get a chance, go to 1999. Can you feel it? Go to YouTube, look at that clip against Florida A&M. Can you feel it? It's the first year I wrote that Michael Jackson clip. I did the fanfare and the number. There isn't another band, Southern and otherwise, who play like the 1999 band, Can You Feel It? Why? Because it was about energy. Crank is not about playing high notes. It's about the energy, blowing not in the horns, but through the horns. And I don't care, I was band director, I took out Can You Feel It? It don't sound the same because the energy level wasn't there. Those guys in the 90s played through the horn, not in the horn. So Crank is about an energy level, getting hyped up. We're going to crank on them bars, going to crank on the bar, and they just go crazy. Hey, Mr. J, we going to get... It wasn't about playing, everybody screaming on a high note. No.
Do you think the younger generation today kind of have that confused?
Yeah, that's the reason why you see, when you...
I mean, you got to break that down for me. Like he said, you got to play through the horn. You can't play in the horn, but through the horn.
You see, with wind instruments, which is all the brass and woodwind instruments, you need air to fuel the sound. So you got to breathe from the diaphragm and play, not leave the sound go just in the horn, but through the horn. Because if you breathe from your stomach area, just to fill up the diaphragm, you're going to have more power and more energy. That's where the power come in at, not how high you play, because there are some arrangers who just write out of the characteristic sound of the instrument.
They going for range.
Right. Or tubas don't sound like tubas. They sound like baritone. Baritone sound like alto or E-flat horn. Trombones don't sound like trombone. And we go on and on. F horns sound like trumpet. Trumpets sound like, I don't know, bird
from
pecking. Yeah. But now, listen to me. We would scream. We had screamers when we were in the band, but we used that as a focal point, icing it on the cake. Or Dr. Gray was assigned certain first trumpet players to put icing in or put an exclamation point on the music. We were interested in quality of sound, not how loud you play. Nowadays, whoever play the loudest, it could be nasty. But if you play loud, you the best band. The university could go, range could the volume level could be from pianissimo, 2 P's, very soft, to fortissimo, 3 F's, and it still sound the same because the equalizers are the same. You still hear balance even when we are playing fortissimo, which is very, very loud. You can still hear all the parts. Every band can't do that. You see, I want to say it's a culture of certain things we do that make us sound the way we sound. Everybody trying to emulate that sound. And sometimes you got to just do you. Southern is Southern, and the other bands are other bands, and all the other bands have something to offer.
Something I heard before, you can't out Southern.
No.
And let me ask you this before we go to break. Quick question. This is what you got to pay the bills. With that energy, where did you get this bring the mustard from? I mean, did you just yell out one day, mustard?
Yeah, and it is crazy because they called me the mustard man. I just out of nowhere, I say, 1, 2, bring that mustard. And then the band just went crazy. It's
Do
something
you
that
like mustard?
I even eat mustard on a hamburger. I don't. I like mustard greens.
Oh yeah.
But I don't like no mustard, no.
We gotta get ready to take a break now. That is funny.
I do.
Bring that mustard.
And he don't even like mustard. All right, let's take a break, man. Y'all come back. Stay tuned. More to Jaguar Journal.
Are you looking for a safe, healthier work environment with an increase in employee productivity? Look no further than Go 225 Janitorial Services. We can provide a free quote for your commercial cleaning needs. Don't leave your commercial cleaning to just anyone. Your company's image is important to us. We're locally owned and operated and provide a quality, reliable cleaning service every time. Visit Go 225 Janitorial Services online at go225janserve.com or contact us at 225-360-5233.
Download the Talk 107.3.
Care South is now providing COVID-19 drive-through community testing at their Baton Rouge clinic. Testing is available for anyone with or without symptoms and no doctor's order required. No insurance? Care South will cover the cost. Care South is a federally qualified health center providing comprehensive medical, dental, and behavioral health services, offering telehealth services and an in-house pharmacy. Satellite clinics in Donaldsonville, Plaquemine, and Zachary. At Care South, we're here for you. Care South. Family serving families. Care South is now providing COVID-19 drive-through community testing at their Baton Rouge clinic. Testing is available for anyone with or without symptoms and no doctor's order required. No insurance? Care South will cover the cost. Care South is a federally qualified health center providing comprehensive medical, dental, and behavioral health services, offering telehealth services and an in-house pharmacy. Satellite clinics in Donaldsonville, Plaquemine, and Zachary. At Care South, we're here.
The Jaguar Journal. I'm Perry White. Thank you guys for tuning in this morning. I'm gonna tell you the smile that's next to me right now is, it's I can't even explain it. Good morning to everybody, man. And guess what? I got him joined in the studio with my man Lenard Tillary, Southern University and the SWAC's all-time leading rusher. Tillery, anytime I mention you, I will make sure I would never not mention that. We were out hanging out the other day, and I introduced him. I said, man, this is the SWAC's all-time leader. I said, man, I want people to know we got to have value and pride into what's ours. And we got to be able to boost that up and tell people so then we can in turn show them the value that if we care about it and show us the value, they'll see us the value. And my man, Mr. Lawrence Jackson, bring that mustard. Mr. Bring that mustard. That's what you, Mr. Bring. Do you need a shirt with that on it?
Bring that mustard.
Let me ask you a question, then we're going to go to the phone lines real quick. I used to be so mesmerized by this band when you talk about the halftime, because the movie Drumline made it best for you. Halftime is game time. And Southern would do something that was so unique to, still to this day, if you watch a video and they do this and listen to the crowd reaction, how did they know that? When Southern makes the score, now I've seen how it go, okay? But, and I don't want to tell it, but just how amazing to know that you can do that on the fly. When people see that in the stands, they be like, it got to be the Illuminati. They must have knew the score already. It is amazing when you can blow the stadium's mind.
That's originated with the legendary Dr. Gray. I say he was an innovative band director. I can't say enough about Dr. Gray. He brought the scores to Southern University, and you work at that time, 128 members had an assignment. 128 block had an assignment. You had 4 sections working together, and everybody would learn 11 variables. You would learn the blank, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Every person had to learn their movement with 11 variables. And you had to know it. If one would get out of line or miss their turn, you mess up the score. So it's a tedious operation. It's an operation that have to be in sync. And Dr. Griggs used to work us and work us and work us and work us and work us. I've seen him work these scores, and I took what he did, and I did the same thing, because if it's not broke, you don't try to fix it.
There you go.
So everybody wondering how we do the score. Well, it takes a concerted effort of 128 members, 160 members, 176 when I was the director of bands on the field, and sometime I used 192, and now that's what the band march on the field, 192, and they have about 250, 260 in the band. I kept a deuce and a quarter at 225.
I like you, man. Yeah. I like you a lot.
Yeah, so that's what it is.
Let's go to the phone line right quick. We got CJ still online? All right, good morning, CJ. How you doing?
Good morning, Perry. Good morning, Mr. Tillery, and good morning, Dr. Jackson. It's an honor and a pleasure to have your presence on the show because you can bring a lot of things that the average person can't bring, don't know about, bring it, but you can deliver it. But one of the things that I would like for you to speak upon, since we got you there, sir, you're right. When we had the band in the 90s, sir, we was untouchable. We might be untouchable today as well. But there's a lot of other bands that's coming up and feeling that they can match us and beat us at certain things. And it has been said and told through all the band things that they have going on in Houston, in Atlanta, and some of the other places that they go to band shows for Southern University band that participate, for some reason don't be announced that they came out number one. It'll always be another situation. But, sir, there's two things I wanted to see if you can address for me to see how the band changed. Back in the 90s, you had almost like 100% all-male band. And when you got all male, sir, that's a different mentality than when you introduced the ladies to the band. I wanted to know who made the decision to bring the ladies into the band, because I do think that made a difference. And I just wanted to see how you can respond upon that and talk about that. The other thing that I see that we can do that we're not doing, because the band in the 90s, sir, you can't compare the band of today with the band in the 90s because you got a whole different mentality of what we got out there for kids right now. But, sir, when you in the stands, though, that's where I have a little issue at, because things don't seem to be as organized sometimes as they are when they're out there marching on the field. And when you do a song in the stand, all bands has the way that they're doing things. They can't dance, but they be sitting down doing things with their movement and everything. It seems to be like we are not up to par with that as it relates to what I've seen in the last 5 years. So I'd just like to see if you can comment on that, since you are the master of all this situation. And how many members of Southern University Human Jukebox Band is band leaders at other universities that's taking our show and making it their show? Thank you for coming on the show, sir. Appreciate what you've done for Southern University Human Jukebox.
All right, thank you, TJ.
Well, first of all, there's a lot of questions. I'm hoping I can answer all of them. Let's start with the females. What I'm gonna tell you is gonna be shocking. I was at Clinton High School, and 60 to 65% of my band were female. There were maybe 1 year in 20 years where it was more males than females. I found out with training, females were out expectation. If you don't tell the female what is the expectation, they will out expect the expectation. If you look around, who's driving UPS trucks? Who's driving the mail truck? Who's driving the garbage truck? Who's driving the FedEx truck? Female. Females are tough. They can keep up. That was this thing about females can't keep up. When I came back to Southern and females started marching in the band, they were fussing at the guys because the guys were quitting. That's facts. I was there. The guys were, it's too hard. I didn't know it was going to be this hard. Even football players who went out for the band, they didn't know we were just marching. Football players was built differently because they were strong. They were masculine. They were just bad. But the conditioning, the march up and down the field all morning, it wasn't used to that. So some of the football players, some of the athletes, one or two of them would say, man, I didn't know this was, they didn't quit, but they didn't know what was involved. So the gender has nothing to do with the drive, because, again, more males quit the band than females. Okay, that's number one. And they could play. The next thing is, I think YouTube hurt a lot of what we did because nobody would know what we were doing in the band room. I think letting people in our rehearsal with a camera isn't good. Peeking to Jaguar rehearsal, I never allowed that. Dr. Griggs never allowed cameras to come in. Matter of fact, for homecoming, I told him if I see anything on YouTube next year, nobody could come in the band room and watch the band practice. Not for homecoming. Because there are certain things we do that we don't want other bands to start doing. So it's so important that we keep what we got with us. I think the bands are trying to emulate us because we are the mark. We are the standard. And talking about catching up with us, anytime you have an obsession to watch the Southern band 24/7, there are some guys told some things, shared some things with me about me that I forgot and didn't even know. And because they just study the band. They know what shows we do, when we did it, who was the director, who was the arranger. That's what YouTube do for you. So you got to constantly try to find new ideas. All the bands are struggling. All HBCU bands are struggling for new material. And so you got to come up with something. You got to be creative. And you got to keep people out of your band room, out of your rehearsal, out of what you're doing. And you have to have the element of surprise. We are missing the element of surprise because we put too much of what we do out on the air. Don't put it out on the air, and then you become even a more danger because they don't know what you're doing. I feel sorry for band directors, particularly the band directors at Southern, because the fans want more. Give me more. It's just like feeding a
gluttonous person.
Yeah, who just want to eat more. They obsessed with Southern band. So anything you repeat, they say, oh, they done this last week. Oh, they done this week before. Oh, they done this. You got to have music for the 0 quarter. Got to have music for the halftime. You got to have music for the 5th quarter. When they going to stop? The arrangers have a difficult time just trying to find material to satisfy people who want to hear more, they want to see more. And not only are the band directors are really overworking, but the students are practicing so much until some of them be so tired they can't make it to their morning classes. Somebody's gonna have to put the brakes on how HBCU bands perform, because 5th quarter and 0 quarter are taking over halftime. Nowadays, they're not interested in halftime. Halftime was king in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Now the 5th quarter, the 0 quarter. Who could play the loudest wins. That shouldn't be. You should have a quality of sound. You can say this band is of high quality, high moral fiber. This band is top band. Now, in terms of who's the best band when they have these polls out, all these things are fictitious. It's not an official poll. I could get a poll, put you on it, put the host on it, and we say we're going to put as a poll. That's all you got to do is say the Mr. J top 10 band. And that would be the Bible. You got some Joe Blow in the corner putting a poll together, and everybody feeding into it and say, oh man, Southern didn't come out first. They say, no, that's by design. I could tell you some things, but I'm not going to say it online. I was on a panel. I'm going to just leave it like that. Don't believe those polls unless it's really some people who know music, who know band, who know how to judge a band, and they be part of the panel to decide on who number 1, number 2. Now, in 2013, my last marching season, because I retired in 2014, the NCAA did a poll, first ever poll of the top bands in the United States. PWI HBCU. Southern was ranked number 2 behind Ohio State. That's the fall of 2013. Now, wait a minute. We're not talking about an HBCU poll, the top bands in HBCU. We're talking about the top bands in the country. Southern was the only HBCU band to be in the top 5. The top 2 was Ohio State, the Ohio State, and the Southern University marching band, better known as the Human Jukebox. That was a valid poll. This is an organization who's in charge of managing NCAA sports, any sports, athletic sports team, student athlete. They did the poll. That's the only poll they did, and it was sanctioned. And we were number 2 in the country, behind Ohio State. That's just like Alabama or Georgia or LSU being number 1. They played against another team, and the second place team lost to the number 1 team. We were number 2. We have always been consistently number 1 in legitimate polls for HBCU bands. I got the trophies to prove it when I was director of band, and the band directors after me. But sometimes you get these polls that's not legitimate, and people make it legitimate, and the fan base buy into it. So Southern has always been consistent. They're a strong band. It's just the students are different. It's not the same type of student you're dealing with. You got a lot of things that goes on behind the scenes. You got to be careful what you say to students. You got such thing as bullying is prevalent.
You can't practice this long. I know that.
You can't practice that long. You can't be strong-worded with them.
I like that strong-worded.
Right, yeah. Or use descriptive language.
There we go.
To them.
Oh, yeah.
You can't. That is a realness when they talk about mental
health.
Mental health. That is real.
Mr. J, I want to jump in right quick. I know you were trying to reach all those points. We got maybe about 7 minutes left in the show. Funding for the band. And I want to ask you this because I think it's big. I had this talk with Dr. Kedrick Taylor as well. Southern's marching band to me is the number 1 asset on that campus. As much as people may not want to admit it, a lot of people tend to say athletics. But Southern's band, hands down to me, in my opinion, and Tillery, I know you come from the world of athletics.
I'm going to say football.
Okay. And you said this. As a football player last week, you had teammates that felt like the band overshadowed the football team. But for Southern's band, who is asked to play at everything, board members and anybody who has any attraction to Southern, can you get the band to play here? Can you get the band to play here? Can you get that shows the value. But the funding isn't there for the band.
First of all, give the band department proper funding and hold everybody accountable. I promise you, you're going to get even a better product. Listen, we want quality musicians. It costs you. Nobody coming to Southern no more to play in a band just on the name. Mr. Taylor been on the road for weeks and weeks at a time trying to get quality musicians, not quantity. We could always get the numbers, but we don't want no horn holders. We want quality musicians. It's going to cost you. Some of the best musicians come out of the state of Georgia and Texas. And it ain't changed at all. And every now and then you got different musicians from different states. You got a lot of different musicians in all the states. But we recruit mainly out of Louisiana, Texas, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, and all in between. But your quality musicians gonna want to come to Southern. I've missed a lot of them because I didn't have the money. I did not have the money to get them there. I see these guys years going by, and they tell me the only reason why they didn't come to Southern because other schools offered them more money.
Because I think on the outside looking in, when people see Southern's band, they think it's all put together. Oh, man, for them to be ranked with Ohio State, they must got it together. They don't understand uniforms, instruments, and most importantly, the scholarships.
Look, I could stay 4 hours talking about this subject, but I'm gonna just try to hurry up.
I got you 2 minutes.
Listen to me. The New York Times did a comparative analysis between Ohio State and Southern University marching band. They went to Ohio State and they saw that Ohio State had iPads. Every band student had an iPad, marching with an iPad, the design. They get the design, the directors send it to the computer lab, send it to the engineering, and they do the design, and these band students is following the iPad where they're supposed to go. They got a state-of-the-art tower where it's air-conditioned on the inside and heat, and they got you do halftime shows under the light in a lighted stadium and turf field. At Southern, they found out I did my halftime shows on graph paper with color pencils and a compass, and I got mosquitoes, lighting is poor, bubblegum budget. But in analysis, they came to the conclusion that both bands were superior on the field, but had different methods. Ohio State had a multi-million-dollar budget. I had a bubblegum budget, but we still came out with the same results in terms of the finished product. I'm gonna say this before we go out. If it were not for Southern University and the education I received, I wouldn't be who I am today. Southern University gave me an opportunity to be the person I am today, and I thank God for Southern University. Let's support the Southern University band. Let's support Southern University with our finances. Let's be a part of the solution and not part of the problem. And that's on both sides of the aisle. God bless and God keep y'all.
My man, that's Mr. Lawrence Jackson. He want 2 more hours with us. I wish we had it. My man, Lenard Tillary, as always, man. It's a blessing to have you here in the studio because he's the all-time leading rusher in the SWAC. And we have Mr. J, who is perhaps the best band director on this side of earth. All right, so it's good to have you both here today with us, man, and it's good to have people to be able to listen to this greatness. Southern University produces some of the best in the top in the world, and don't get it twisted by the propaganda and the things that you hear. There are some great people, all right, and 2 of them are right here in the studio with me today, and so I want to thank you guys for being in here today, and thank you guys for listening. If you're out here in Radio Land on 107.3, tune in. Be sure to go subscribe to our Jaguar Journal on YouTube, and for those on YouTube, thank you for tuning in. I see the chat and everything in terms of the engagement. Thank you to CJ for calling in, and thank you for everybody. We'll be back next week at the same time in the same place because, as always, it's the Jaguar Journal.
Insurance companies often discourage people from getting an attorney.